very briefly, I hope everyone enjoyed a few days off here of the hockey season and spent some time with their families, and welcome you back to work today.
What was your thought process the past few days?
Can you be more specific?
Well, I mean, your decision to let Derek go and bring in Todd.
I can't exactly give you the exact date or time, but as our season started and has progressed to today, obviously you start to think about how do you improve your team? How do we get going in the direction we want to, or playing the way we want to? And you look at all different types of things. Obviously, the first option is personnel, player personnel, to move things around and whatnot. And then as we're getting closer to yesterday, start to think about, I might have to make a change here. Our team, I guess my thought process is, our team isn't performing to what my expectations are. Whether anybody agrees with that or not, I have my own expectations of the team, and why they aren't is because our players aren't playing to each of their individual expectations, and I have my own expectation of each individual player, and so collectively we are where we are and we're playing the way we are, and a decision comes at some point, and I don't like to always, we see teams make changes, coaching changes all the time. Sometimes it makes a difference, sometimes it doesn't. Ultimately, you need good players to have a good team, and a coach needs good players. So you need to take time to think about, okay, how are we going to, what's the right move? Recently, just watching our team play, the spirit was zapped out, even sitting back watching our coaching staff. Everyone's frustrated. Everyone's, it's not like nobody's, they're not trying to win, not trying to figure it out, but you can just see it in the players' faces. I think you would all sense it in Montreal, even going back to Buffalo, a game in Buffalo, and we won. You start to sense the frustration, the will being zapped from everyone. And ultimately, after the Toronto game, it felt like this is, there's never a right time, but this is the time it needs to be done.
What do you like about Todd?
Well, a lot of things. Todd came here as an assistant coach my last year as a player. And then I remained with the organization for 4 years after I retired, and mostly watched from afar. I didn't have a ton of interaction with the coaching staff. But and when I left to go to Tampa and Todd went to San Jose, we've remained in contact. You have friends around the league, colleagues around the league that we for whatever reason, it might just be to run into each other and on a social, or we talk about our teams, about players, things, about hockey. And I've remained in touch with him I've had a good relationship with him. I think he's an excellent hockey coach. I think he's got great experience with very good teams in San Jose. Good playoff experience there in Edmonton with a rebuilding team with some elite players, and took a team a little bit in transition in LA with some elite players and young players, and has done a good job in every location he's been. I like the way he thinks. I like the way he conducts himself. And again, as a player, it was only one season, but we all sit back and assess. Everybody does it. You sit, you watch your coaches, you watch everything, you form opinions, and very clearly at that time I thought this guy's going to be really good in this league for the way he conducts himself and talks about the game and presents and runs practices, whatnot. So I think he's an excellent choice. I'm really looking forward to working with him, and I think he'll have the ability to take us to another level here.
Steve, just from a personnel standpoint, what's missing? What elements are missing from this team to get them in the position that they're at right now?
Well, if you just want to look at the very broadly, we need to score more. We need to be better defensively. We need to keep the puck out of our net, whether it's defensively or goaltending. We just need to. It's a very obvious answer. We need to get better. We need, I say it like, you need good players, and we're being patient. We're going to, we're being patient with our younger players, patient with them in the NHL, patient with them from the point of drafting them or signing them to getting them to the NHL. And again, you're not going to like it. It takes time. So what is missing? Like, you look at all the areas of our team, we need to be better in every aspect of it. That's obvious.
You mentioned good teams, good players. Do you believe you have the good players right now?
To do what? To win a cup? No.
Right now. But you mentioned having good players. You mentioned that's something that has to go. Is it something when you look in that room right now, are the players there good enough for what your expectation is right now?
For what my expectation is, yeah, they're good enough, and that's why I make the change. Now, I guess the obvious question is, what are my expectations? My expectation at the start of the year, if everything went well here with our team, everyone stayed healthy, everybody performed expectations, I think with this group, we could compete for a wild card spot. And we're not there. We're not far off from that. And, the last week, if, you simply get a 3-game winning streak, you're right back in the mix for that. And that was, if all goes well at this stage of where we're at, that's my expectation.
You
Yep.
said before, after this round, did you mean after the St. Louis game on Monday that you made the decision? I just wanted to get the timeline. You said after this round, or was that?
That really, I guess that made my decision on timing. I'd rather not go into exact this whole process, but my, over the last, 10 days, 2 weeks, is like, I think I'm going to have to do something. Okay, what am I going to do? What are my options? Do I want to do this now? Do I want to wait? Okay, and then if I do something, who's coming in? And, you go through all the different scenarios, and very, after the St. Louis game, it's, pretty clear to me, pretty evident that, maybe I'm going to have to do something now. You take the schedule into it. You take, the Christmas break into it. You're going to bring in a new coach, like today, coming in for the very first day without even any practice time. It's not ideal, but you're looking at, there's no ideal time to do that.
With Todd, was it as far as was part of this, you were waiting for Todd to be available or to finalize? Like, there's two parts of the decision. There's letting Derek go, and then there's hiring Todd. Where does that kind of line go as far as when you can share of?
Well, Todd was available, so that's not an issue. It's more my decision, my timing on working through the process on what I want to do specifically, and then, talking with Todd and how he wants, what he wants to do, and then bring in Trent Yanni as well and kind of figure it all out. It doesn't take that long. So it's just been in, it's not like I've been sitting here scheming this out or planning this out over a month, but as just like you all probably do, if anybody's following the Red Wings every game, we kind of live and die and on that result, and try not to act that way as a manager. You're kind of assessing your team, looking at where you're at, where you're going, and then personnel, staff, everything is like, okay, if I'm going to do something, what am I going to do?
You talked about expectations. How much responsibility for that the players themselves as individuals going to have versus obviously the coaching change? How much of that is
Well, I'll start by saying, you deal with the players on a day-to-day basis. I think they're a really professional, good group of human beings. First of all, they mean well. It's not like they're not trying to do well or don't want to do well. That's not the case at all. And being a player and being in their shoes when things aren't going well up for a team or going well individually, your head is spinning. You're trying to figure out reasons why, and it's frustrating. And we all are like, you have a tendency. It's like, focus on me, my role, I need to be in this situation, that situation. Ultimately, the coach is going to use each player to do two things. One, he's trying to win hockey. They're trying to win hockey games. Two, they're trying to get the most out of each player, whether it's a 20-year-old or a 35-year-old, trying to maximize their abilities and use them the right way. So I say, like, with each of our players, you can only control, you can't control the coach's decision as far as who you're going to play with, how much you're going to play. It's you will your way into the lineup, you will your way into a certain role, and a role for, you know, a first line center is different than a role for like maybe a player playing on the fourth line killing penalties. But you work every day to give yourself an opportunity to get on the ice more, and it's up to the coaching staff to, I guess, maximize each player's ability, but also inspire them and give them hope and give them clarity in their role. And it's up to the player to buy into that and accept the challenge of this is what's expected of me. So I think there's more from our players here. I think each and every one of these players can play better. And I guess ultimately I make the coaching change with the expectation and the hope that Todd, Trent, and a different staff will, get these guys back to playing at the level that we expect them to and beyond. And time will tell if that happens.
For what group of players is the patience being shown? Like, where will the payoff be? Because there's a lot of critics that'll say, oh, 6 years, they should have been in the playoffs, they should have been contending yet. But it does take time in the NHL. Is this a sort of Raymond insider, and then some of the recent first-round picks will be there 4 or 5 years? I mean, are we still talking about that long of a patience payoff?
Not sure specifically the question.
What group of players are fans being patient for to take that step? When you ultimately envision a cup, whose hands is that cup over?
Well, I can't give you an exact timeline for when that's going to happen, as much as you'd love to have one, and I'd love to give you one. I don't think, we talk about if, Dylan's 28, the captain of the team. I still consider him a young hockey player. He's got a long time left, and we're going to continue to build around that age group. We've got some players older on the team here that are here, and they may or not be here for 1, 2, 4 more years. But if you can look at it, reasonably, sensibly, from Dylan Larkin, the captain of the team, down to maybe Simon Edvinsson, or as maybe our youngest player right now, or Albert on the team, in that group with players coming, we'll continue to build around that, and that's what I'm going to stick to doing. And if you have a better way, you're free to share it with me. Okay? Seriously. Like I'm not like we're all, there's 32 teams. We're all looking. Everybody's at a different standard, and you look at a bunch of teams that are in the situation we're in. We're trying to get better. We're trying to expedite this thing, and we'll continue to look at it. But ultimately, we need that core of players, and understandably of young players, and that's taken a long time, and longer than you or anybody else here would like, including myself.
Do you feel like this roster needs a shake-up at all, or do you have to give this some time out? Do we have to see it catch fire?
I would say, like, what are you hoping for in a shake-up? Like, just to do something to get everybody's attention. I don't really believe, you can do that, but more so I want to make moves that make us a better hockey club. Like, I could, put somebody on waivers, send them to the minors. The trade, we can start trading again tomorrow. I don't want to do something just to create a story that, I want to do something that, I'm open to doing anything that makes our team better, and not only this year, but most importantly for the future.
Coach's message gets stale. I'm not sure if that's the case here, but we've been through a lot with a lot of teams. I mean, sometimes does the message just get stale or gets disconnected from the game or whatnot?
It's funny, you think like as long as I've been around, I'd be able to answer that question properly. I don't believe in the theory that coaches necessarily have a shelf life. I don't believe in that. I think good coaches adapt. They adapt to the team they have. Ultimately, if your team isn't performing and the results aren't there, you don't see the thing. That's what happens in the coaching world. So I'm not sure I agree with say, hey, the message gets stale. things don't work. Yeah. And ultimately, in this case, in Derek's case, I'm not sure it was the message gets stale. Our team, isn't meeting our expectations. And like I say, is like with Todd coming in, time will tell in the short term, but more importantly, the long term. If that's right, I believe Todd will be able to, with his experience and his approach, will be able to get us going again in the right direction.
Was it important to get an experienced guy this time around? A guy with Todd's level of experience?
I think it's always a good thing. Ultimately, I was looking to hire the best coach I possibly could, and I believe Todd is the best coach available to us today, and that's my opinion. So, I think it's great that he has all, the experience that he's had in all these situations is I just think he's, without a doubt, for me, for what I want to do, where we're at, and someone that I want to work with, I believe he's definitely the right guy.
Motivating and things like that, but from a stylistic, if you like how the team's played style,
Maybe not use the word style, but as far as our structure, way we play.
like a lot about like promotion and driving guys and everything like that. But
Overall, I don't think that was a major issue for us. I would, we talked in the off season about improving. One area I think we've shown improvement was in our defensive zone, a little bit better with our, the way we're structured and organized, just in when the other team had possession in the defensive zone. Parts of our game, I would. I have my own opinions, I guess, on structure, on breaking the puck out, on killing penalties, on power plays. Ultimately, you have to let the coaches do their job and coach the way they feel they need to, or the way they believe in, and the way they can maximize the personnel that you have. I have, in the past, always expressed my views on things, but ultimately, to the coaches, that's their job to do that. So I guess to answer your question specifically, there's parts of our game that I was comfortable with, the way we do things. Others, not a big, I would do it differently, I suppose. But I think that's always going to be that way. And ultimately, you got to let the coaches do their job.
Obviously, there's the other firing/hiring too with Todd Bugner out and Trent coming. Was that something that was always part of the plan, or when it comes into Todd's getting hired, he's like, hey, Todd, I want to bring in Trent? Like, how does that kind of work?
Yeah.
It's not just, we talk a lot about the big up top iron, but there's also his second in command.
Yeah, so when I meet with Todd to talk to him about the job and go through everything I can think of in my mind about the role, one of that is, okay, we have a coaching staff in place. What are your thoughts? And the one, he says, I would like to bring Trent Yawney with me. We've worked together for a long time. I'm comfortable with him in this role. So it's less an indictment on Bob Bugner than it's more Todd wanted to bring Trent in specifically, and that's the reason for that there was one other change made on the staff.
Steve, I have a question similar to Brad's. Since your first season, the record's gotten a little bit better every single year until so far now.
Yep.
Do you view this as a separate temporary setback, or is there a deeper issue? Like, deeper issue, I mean, you haven't drafted in the top 3 in forever, right? And so you can't find those difference makers easily. Is it going to be more difficult now at this stage of your tenure to get where you want to go?
I don't think, I don't want to use that, hey, we haven't gotten a top 3 or the draft as an excuse for us not getting there, because you can still do it. Obviously, you hit a grand slam when you get a Connor McDavid or Sidney Crosby. I mean, there's two names that come along in the last 20 years. Those guys aren't there every year. So you can still draft, you can get difference makers, elite players at any spot in the draft. So as much as we'd love to have a perfect symmetrical ascension in our process or in our development, it doesn't always work that way. and we've gotten improvement. I guess I look at the big picture overall is that we've got prospects in the system that continue to get better, and it's not even a perfect path with those kids. They get injured along the way, they go astray for whatever reason, then they come back in, and eventually you get them to the NHL. So it's never perfect. Is it a setback? I think it's too early, like, to say it's a setback. I'm not happy, obviously, with where we're at today, but I look at the big picture with some of the young kids in the organization that they're coming. We're going to continue to improve here. And again, I go back to, it's not acceptable. I get for our fan base, for all of you, and I respect everybody's opinions on it. It's like, hey, this is taking too long. This is taking a long time. I understand, and we're trying to do this as quickly as we possibly can, and trying to make the best decisions each year at the draft that we can, get these kids here, and we're going to continue doing that and get there at some point.
What do you want to say to fans? We've been talking to many, they have lots of opinions. What do you want to say to fans who might say that this decision alone with the coaching staff might not be enough? What's your message for them?
It might not be enough. Well, I guess I could say, I'm going to do everything I can to build a team that can compete for the Stanley Cup. I feel today we're a long way from that. Part of that is being a competitive team that can compete for a playoff spot, and we're going to continue trying to build. We have an ownership group that is 100% dedicated and giving us all the support that we need to do whatever we have to do to get to there, and it's a difficult process. And I've been here for a long time in Detroit. This is a great, not only hockey town, but a sports town. People follow all the teams passionately. They follow the sports. They not only all the sports, but in hockey, a lot of people, not only their kids have played it, they've played it, they understand the game, and they want the team to do well. So I'm not going to insult anybody's intelligence in that way, other than we're going to continue to do everything we possibly can to build a team that can compete for the Stanley Cup. And I'm hoping to expedite that process any way we can. And we'll continue to try to do that.
You said players weren't performing to your expectations right now. You talked about prospects with the coaching staff that was in place. How do you feel about the development of some of your young players? Was that meeting your expectations, or where do you fall on that?
Young players, Trev, on the team or just in the organization?
At the NHL level.
Well, I think that, if we look at it on our team, and if I miss somebody, you can throw their name out, but Simon's playing a pretty big role on the back end. Obviously, the most important thing for us is we want our young players playing, whether they're in Detroit or in the American Hockey League. So we got to say, to our coaching staff that they had Simon in a role performing very well, probably in a bigger role than maybe we expected at the start of the year, just because he has played in not that many games. But he's done well, and so then I look up front, and just going by the younger guys, Marco Kasper, who wasn't really sure, we started him in the minors, actually has played what we feel is very well. Now, production, there's not a ton of goals and assists, but if you watch him out there, he's performing well. He's responsible, very responsible for such a young player. Does a lot of good things well. We're hoping that that production comes, and we expect it to come. Michael Rasmussen, Joe Veleno, I still consider them young guys. They took on more so maybe last year, Ras than Joe, took on a bigger role, and I'm expecting, for whatever reason, those roles were reduced a little bit in this first part of the season. We need those players to play a bigger role, and on the back and the bottom of our roster, as far as roles last year, we lost Robbie Fabry, Daniel Sprong. We're hoping those players Jonathan Berggren can play a bigger role, and they're going to get probably more of an opportunity now. They're getting, I'm expecting them to get more of an opportunity. It's up to them to make, I guess, excel in those roles and those opportunities. Yep.
When it comes to the term of this deal, obviously it is a multi-year deal, and I don't want to assume incorrectly, is that a sign that this was a happy and easy reunion, or that maybe Todd was coming in looking for more term if he was going to start a new chapter and you're looking for a leader to guide this through?
I guess, I could have gone with the interim coach, get through the year for different reasons, maybe test drive that interim coach, or see if there's somebody else I wanted to in the off season, see who might be available at that time. Ultimately, as I said, I believe Todd McLellan's an excellent coach, someone that I really want to work with, and he's going to need some time as well. So, it's again, this move isn't made just for this year. It's made for the organization moving forward for next year and beyond.
One of your first availabilities back here as GM was against that wall. St. Louis had just won. He said, look at their core. Terrace, it took a decade. I mean, outside of Vegas being the only outlier in the last few years, it really has kind of taken teams a decade with their cores. How do you, on a personal level, maintain this patience that you keep talking about? How do you not just want to make irrational trades to just try to expedite it? Like, how do you personally handle it?
Well, we throughout the course of the season, even the off season, you talk to every team in the league. Okay, like, we want this player from your team. Okay, we want that player. Okay, he may or may not be available, and well, to get those players, we got to give up our good players. It's as simple, as simple as that. I'm going to give you my bad players for your good players. Okay, I'll give you two bad ones for one good one. It doesn't work that way, So we're trying, and when you really force it, when you panic, you make you make bad moves, and so it's not that I'm like, this is easy to be patient. Like, we're constantly trying to improve our team, look at different ways. Even at the draft, you're looking to move things around to see if you can't get this player or that player. And it's just a slow-moving process. And with 32 teams, we're all looking for difference makers. And and it's hard to do with the good teams at the trade deadline. They want to move their their picks and their prospects. And for your guys that are close to free agency, and there's teams around the league that are in our boat. They're going through rebuilds, and try and get their players. They're not looking for draft picks. They want young players kind of in the same boat as us. So Brad, I guess the answer is it's just not necessarily easy to be patient. You're just constantly looking at trying to improve your team, and these significant trades and moves don't happen. Look at free agency. How many, like on July 1, how many real difference makers become available? They just don't, because teams don't let those guys go, So, and it's not an excuse. That's just we just kind of keep trying. So it's not like I'm just sitting here hey, it's going to take 10, 12 years. We're okay with that. We're not. We're trying to move it forward as quickly as we can.
One more question.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
You talked about the young players on the team, but there's been prospects out there at the start of this season that have been maybe a little better than they were last season. Michelle McCobb, Sandon Pelicans, kind of tearing it up, had a hat-trick yesterday. Are you kind of encouraged, and Grand Rapids as well, playing pretty well with some game players, are you encouraged that, are thinking maybe these guys are maybe just a little more closer than you thought they were, or are they still far away?
Let's say far away. I don't know what your definition of far away is. Yeah.
Encouraged that this season they've taken a step, maybe.
Yeah.
Figure into
Yeah, we're looking at you mentioned Sandin Pelika. Obviously, if you watch yesterday, he has a hat trick in the World Juniors. He looks like a talented young defenseman. He's playing in the Swedish Elite League, which is a very good league, doing well. Can I tell, like, I'm not sure how far, I don't, is it 1 year? Is it next September, or is it next December or the following year? I'm not sure, but he's close to playing. Bushelnikov's a talented young player in Russia. It's a little bit of a different circumstance with the players playing in Russia. We're optimistic that'll be here. Will it be 1, 2, 3 years? I'm really not sure, but he's an intriguing young prospect. Just looking at Grand Rapids, we talk about that it's never smooth, always doesn't go smooth. We think very highly of Carter Mazer. Carter got hurt early in the season, hasn't played. We expect him back in a month. Does that delay his timeline to get to the NHL? Perhaps. But we're encouraged by some of the younger players, that we have. And again, we'll transition, or they'll move into the NHL over the course of maybe even later this season. Some of the kids in Grand Rapids, move them in next fall again, and gradually build a core. And it's not just getting them here; it's then getting them here, Kevin, as you know, and then them being impact players, and really being difference makers. And that takes a couple of years as well for the vast majority of these young kids. They work their way into the NHL. They can play in the NHL. Then they help you win in the NHL.
Yes, I'm good.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yep. Thank you.